Alright, we're back, guys. We made it. We got through the craze of Dune Part 2, and there's still some film content and TV content on the other side. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? I thought maybe, everybody would just stop putting out anything the rest of the year because, why? Why would they? Nothing's going to match Dune Part 2. I say that, but Furiosa is on the horizon. I'm already getting ahead of myself, guys. I'm excited to be back. It's John Dudley Speaks. We're going to be covering Roadhouse today, the 2024 remake from Doug Liman and Jake Gyllenhaal. But before we do that, we're going to get into some news. I'm going to keep things moving along. Not going to hold you too long. I looked at my podcast runtimes of the first two, and I was just like, why is this an hour? And it's because of the thing I'm doing right now, which is rambling. So expect less of that or more of that. I don't know. I don't know how to censor myself on this kind of thing. But hey, we'll figure it out together. That's the plan. But hey, news. I just want to talk about this. This isn't film related or TV related or anything like that. But this week, as of yesterday, as I'm recording this, we are about to have one of the biggest rap beefs of our lifetime. Yeah, that's right. I think we're gonna see some war happen. This is gonna be like a rap civil war. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Kendrick Lamar finally, openly, explicitly dissed Drake in a monumental moment for hip-hop. This is something that is really unprecedented for the current rap landscape, the modern era of the last decade. Obviously, Drake and Pusha T and Drake and Meek Mill have had their beefs. Eminem's had his beefs as well. But Kendrick Lamar and Drake have been subliminally sneak dissing each other for the last, I want to say better part of the last half decade. They've been doing that a lot more. J. Cole has been in the mix as well. So J. Cole was thrown into the fire now that he's aligned with Drake, and they did First Person Shooter last year. So the diss is fantastic. I'm gonna read some of the wordplay here. Let me just pull up that the lyrics. All I know is that that it was just completely unexpected because it came from the Future and Metro Boomin album, which is great, by the way. Got a review coming out on that this week, but I gotta say, like, as you're listening to that album, you did not expect Kendrick to come in with that kind of energy. I'm thinking that he has been wanting to do this for a while. So, all right, here's he said, F the big three, it's just me, or just big me. Yeah, and it said that Drake's best work is a light pack. Prince outlived Mike Jack. That is, that's rough. Because, we know that Michael Jackson, commercially successful, often compared to Prince. The two of them are always in the same sentence, I think, when it comes to popularity and influence over musical genres of the last, 40 years, basically. But the thing is, it's often referred to that Prince has the more creative side. And Fantano just did a whole breakdown of this. So definitely go check out his diss review, because that's like, definitely breaks it down better than I could. But just him saying Prince outlived Mike Jack, basically saying that his career, his output, what he brings to the genre will outlive what Drake does. That hits hard. That hurts. This very much reminds me of Control all over again, just to a lesser extent, but also I'm sure it's gonna hurt Drake and Cole a lot more because they're putting in a position where they have to respond. So yeah, Stay tuned on the YouTube channel. I'm probably going to be covering this as it happens. So if a Drake track drops and a Cole track drops, and we go into full diss mode, I'm going to be there to give my thoughts and opinions on it. So yeah, big news from this week. Changing gears a little bit, we have 2 legacy sequels. Because what's new? What's new? You know, speaking of legacy sequels, what's that new Ghostbusters movie just came out yesterday? I didn't even know it was coming out until, like, you know, a few weeks ago. They really did not market that at all. Sony is just in shambles. But I am getting ahead of myself again. Beetlejuice. If you guys have seen the trailer for this, it literally looks like a 30 Rock parody come to life. It looks like a Facebook movie poster come to life, and I'm here for it. I think Tim Burton's going to do a great job. You know, Jenna Ortega is also in it. The whole cast of the original's back. I am hesitant when it comes to legacy sequels on things that, you know, were made years and years ago that really aren't begging or crying out for something like a modern update. But I don't know. I just feel like Michael Keaton's in an era where, you know, I think he's still in high demand. I think he's such an excellent actor that's often overlooked for a lot of his contributions to the mainstream blockbuster era, as well as, you know, his really strong work like Birdman and in Spotlight. You know, I don't think he gets enough credit for what he's brought to, you know, just brought to filmmaking in general. So having him come back and get to, you know, flex his comedic muscles again is going to be really exciting. So I think it's going to be a win. I don't think that the news about Happy Gilmore is a win. We're getting a Happy Gilmore sequel, which I'm very mixed on. I don't think that that's something that we need. I don't think it's something that is sorry, I'm a little stuffy out of nowhere. Sorry. I don't think it's something that we can pull off in this day and age. I don't see how it fits our current era. I think in the 90s, that kind of slapstick, you know, aggressive comedy fit the mold a little better, and Adam Sandler was just really good at that. I don't see how Adam Sandler's comedy can translate to an audience now without it feeling corny or like a parody of itself. So, and also Adam Sandler is in such a different lane now where he's doing, you know, sci-fi drama and like crime thrillers, and, you know, he's working with the Safdies and working with like Paul Dano and things like that. You don't expect Sandler to, I don't know. It always feels like a gimmick when he goes back into the humorous bag, when he's shown us how much he can. You know, when you watch a movie like Hustle, you're able to see, okay, this guy, it puts up Oscar caliber performances. Why would he go back to this? So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. We'll also see how Ryan Coogler's anime vampire thriller with Michael B. Jordan goes, because that just got announced. That is official, March 7th, 2025. I am seated. I'm there. Honestly, anything that Ryan Coogler does is great. I'm just glad to see that he's getting out of from under the thumb of Marvel and just getting to do something that really speaks to him and speaks to his creativity. Same with Michael B. Jordan, him stepping out of the Creed lane for a second to, you know, try and you know, cultivate new franchises, starting new stories, which is something we desperately need nowadays. I say that as I'm covering a remake. Yes, I am covering the remake of Roadhouse, 2024's Roadhouse, directed by the Bourne Identity's Doug Liman. He's known to have done quite a few other major action blockbusters. Mr. and Mrs. Smith is one of them. Edge of Tomorrow. He's also done some really crappy movies too, like Chaos Walking, Lockdown. Those two, really like a couple of his worst movies. So when they announced that he was taking over this one, you know, with Jake Gyllenhaal, I was a little hesitant. considering Doug's recent track record hasn't been that great. But you take it back to what he was able to do creatively years ago. You look at Swingers, which I think is one of the best comedy movies of all time, and he directs that movie with like energy and dynamics all at the forefront. So I think that's what he does here with Roadhouse 2024. But to start us off, we need to talk about Jake Gyllenhaal in this movie. You know, in my Substack post yesterday, I I I pointed to the fact that like there's not many stars like Jake Gyllenhaal anymore, and you can argue that we're starting to get stars like that again. With Timothée Chalamet and Austin Butler starting to really come into their own as performers and artists. But Jake Gyllenhaal, I think, is of a breed that fits into like the Christian Bale mold a little bit more, where he has so much versatility and reliability that like you kind of expect anything that he goes into, he's going to give like 200%, right? So as soon as he's announced to be a part of something, you're kind of thinking like, well, that's something that I'm putting on the top of my watch list because he's so good in everything he does. With the track record that he's had, I mean, I'm gonna go through it really quick. Like, you have Prisoners in 2013. You have what is it? Well, he had the Spider-Man Far From Home. That was 2019. But all in between there, Nightcrawler. That's what I'm missing. Nightcrawler. His work in that, I think, really demonstrated his ability to kind of slip in and out of very niche characters. Same with 2015 Southpaw. That was a role that was written for Eminem, and he was able to come into it and make it seem like, oh, this was written for Gyllenhaal and his versatility. So I just find it really interesting. Every movie that he pops up in, even that one he did with Ryan Reynolds that wasn't too great, the Alien one, Life, I find him to just be dynamic, and he can be unsettling at times. Like Ambulance from a couple years ago, not a great movie, a good Michael Bay movie, which is pretty rare, but it wouldn't work if you didn't have someone at the center of it like Jake Gyllenhaal that makes his performances seem rooted in some kind of like grit and reality. And you really have a trust in him that whatever he's doing, he's gonna bring some kind of gravitas to it. And that's no different here. I think this is one of my favorite roles that he's ever played. And I can already see people being a little upset with this movie, mainly because, the charisma that Patrick Swayze had as Dalton in the 89 original, like, that's unbeatable, right? Like, I don't think that this movie is as good as the 89 original because, what could be? The 89 original Roadhouse is, like, to me, a quintessential genre blend when it comes to, like, stylized action, spaghetti western. Like, it's able to fuse together so many elements that shouldn't work on paper, but the way they are cobbled together, it's indicative of the time. Like, the 80s, there was a lot more, like, I think there was a lot more creativity and feeling comfortable to kind of mash things together. Having the steamy drama, like the sex appeal of Roadhouse being in something that's also like where Patrick Swayze rips a guy's throat out. Like, come on. You cannot do that today and be taken seriously. And that's why they don't really do that in this one, which I applaud their restraint for not trying to make this like the exact same movie. And I get it when people, on the Reddit boards and Twitter and all of that are saying like, oh well, Jake Gyllenhaal is not the He's not the Dalton I would pick. Like, I don't think he's the Dalton that most people would pick. Because, Patrick Swayze's version of that is so much more compelling, right? Because of the movie that it's coming from. But when you look at it in a vacuum, and you're looking at it without the context of the original, and just kind of judging this movie for what it is, Jake Gyllenhaal brings a really solid performance to this movie. I think he mixes like a balance of stoic, kind of like just defiance, like the simmering defiance that he has underneath this like stoic demeanor. But like he laces it with this like really witty, charming, like sardonic humor that isn't like reaching too far. Like it's believable. And that goes back to what I said about him before in a lot of his previous roles. He makes the character that you're dealing with and seeing, like for most of the screen time, he makes it enjoyable to have that experience with them because they feel like a real person. And I think here, like with that brute force, like he matches that with like he brings the personality into this same, onto the same wavelength of his brute force. So it doesn't feel like, he's like beating the crap out of dudes and then like he's just cracking jokes like it's a Marvel movie. Like it really feels like there are not disparate tones when it comes to his performance. And you can attribute that to the director, but you can attribute that really to how Gyllenhaal approaches these characters with seriousness. And I mean, speaking of seriousness, he's got this hint of like I've heard that Gyllenhaal is weird to deal with on set and can be difficult. He has that hint of like just being totally neurotic while he's on set, and I get it. I get it because I can kind of see it in just how he's presented in this movie, which is he's just this giant beefcake of a man, right? He puts so much effort into transforming himself. Like I said, like Christian Bale did the same thing with a lot of his movies. And you can kind of see that, like, he takes this extremely seriously to a point where maybe it's a little unhealthy, but then at the same time, you have to really respect it because, who's putting their body on the line anymore? Who's like for real, like putting their body on the line for major fight scenes, like going toe to toe with Conor McGregor, like that requires a lot of training, a lot of like discipline, a lot of like dedication and belief that what you're doing means something. And I have a ton of respect for Gyllenhaal for being able to like follow what he believes is right for the character. And he believed that, getting completely jacked and like actually, nailing down the fight choreography and making it like look like he's actually doing his stunt. I don't know if he did his stunts or anything like that, but we're entering a phase where, it's no longer like a prerequisite to be a movie star, like where you have to actually like put in a lot of effort, right? Keanu Reeves, he puts in a ton of effort when it comes to like his craft, like his stunts on John Wick. And Tom Cruise especially is like the gold standard of that. But I think we might start to see it because of decisions like Gyllenhaal's to like really just immerse themselves into character. I think we might see a sea change when it comes to that. The tide's going to shift where we're going to see artists like Timothée Chalamet start to take up stunts, and Austin Butler's already doing like firearm training for, I think, the Heat sequel that Michael Mann's doing. So I think it's that dedication that inspires a lot of other artists to do the same thing. And that way we're not just stuck in this like blockbuster loop where, CGI and like all that stuff is fine. it's stuff that everybody keeps on coming back to because it works when it works. But I think we're also entering a phase, like I said in the Dune podcast, where people really want that quality over the kind of the glitz and the glam of the movie making process. They want to know that the people that are in the movies are actually like giving a shit about the movie, and I like that. I like that we're heading towards that era. I mean, Roadhouse isn't like on the Dune or Oppenheimer level, but it's still like you can see that it was made with a lot of care, and has a lot to do with the man that is at the center of it. So, respect to Gyllenhaal. I'm gonna move on. Speaking about macho men, basically, the fight scenes in this movie are filmed so dynamically. I really enjoyed it. I thought that it took a new swing at the John Wick style, like I want to call it like a John Wick house style, because Doug Liman was known for Born Identity with the shaky cam, and that era of oh, excuse me, I'm yawning. That era of what's it called, like 2000s spy action thrillers, or late 90s, early 2000s into like the mid to late 2000s especially. You saw this boom of shaky cam and just like erratic, chaotic action with a lot of quick cuts. And John Wick really broke the mold when they emphasized the long takes, the really gruesome fights that you could like see every detail. Like that was something that I think, a lot of different directors across the action genre saw that and were like, well, we need to make like hybrids of this. And it has been hybridized. Like David Leitch, I think, is one of the best examples of being able to like adapt that approach without making it look corny. Like I think Bullet Train is a really fun movie. I enjoy that movie so much. And I think The Fall Guy is going to do something similar. It makes sense because David Leitch co-directed the first John Wick, but Atomic Blonde is a great example as well. Hobbs and Shaw. It's about like this meshing of style and atmosphere that like mixes with the kinetic and like energy of the action, of like this staged action that is kind of like, it's erratic in the sense of what the performers are doing, but what the cameramen are doing, like what's happening on the cinematography side is so interesting because it's like kind of giving you a window into something that you feel like you're an observer of, whereas like on these older shaky cam action scenes, it feels like you're distant from the action, even when you're just like in the midst of Jason Bourne like beating the crap out of some guy. It's just like the shaky cam to me feels really distant because like, I don't know, you're being put in the head of the subject, and it's chaos, it's like just unwieldy, but like you're not able to actually see what's going on. You're not able to actually like, I think, engage with it. It's more like, I feel like the shaky cam is more for a shock value, so it just takes me out of it a lot of the time when I see that. But with Roadhouse, I did not feel like this is a movie that relied on those kinds of tropes. I think Doug Liman did a great job at like expanding his like approach to shot selection, I want to say. There's a lot of like swivel pans and whip pans and just long takes in this movie that I thought were like were highly like confident in just saying like, this is how I'm gonna tell a story with the action. And there's not a lot of action movies like that nowadays that like get away with it. I feel like the Echo series for Marvel did a good job with this as well, where it did like used a dynamic editing style to make this John Wick-esque fight scene like pastiche feel like it wasn't just like ripping off John Wick. And I think that's something that we often see, is that like movies like Kate or Gunpowder Milkshake, they're doing the John Wick thing, but they're not understanding why the John Wick thing worked. And it's because of you presenting to the viewer not only the talent of the stunt workers, right, but like you're presenting to them like how this is impacting the character, how it's like putting their body to the test. Like a lot of these long takes with John Wick, like you're seeing him go through hell as he's taking like a beating from people, but he continues to persevere. So like I think the movies that try to riff off of that, they miss that, and they kind of use it as this like marketing tactic. Whereas like I like how Roadhouse just used it as a means of I think demonstrating the reserved skill that Dalton has. You know, it's very like quick whip pans, and just the way that Lehman kind of shifts the framing around a lot of the time. It actually reminded me of like music videos. Like it reminded me of the Humble Kendrick Lamar music video, where there's a lot of like swivel pans, and he plays with perspective and depth a little bit more in the frame. And I really liked how Lehman does that, where it's like there's a lot of just dynamic, exciting camera work that keeps your eye on the fight. Where, I think if this were in the hands of someone that, say, had only worked on like a Fast and Furious movie or something, I feel like Justin Lin, it handles these fight scenes fine, but like you put this kind of spin on it, it makes it more interesting. It makes it more like engaging with the viewer. It doesn't feel like it's just this like a stock action scene to put in at the end of the movie. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. I think Conor McGregor, I mean, he's not great. He's not a good actor. I wouldn't say. I mean, obviously this is his first movie role, but oh my god, I'm yawning again. I'm so sorry. It's his first movie role, but like, I don't know, you just brought this like 80s villain energy that was just so like over the top and ridiculous, and it kind of paired well and complemented Jake Gyllenhaal's rugged performance. So I was a fan of it. I thought Conor McGregor was really fun. I thought that his fight scenes were really intense, and he just brought this like chaotic, insane energy to the movie, which kind of makes sense. He brings like a chaotic, insane energy to pretty much any time he's on camera. And also, I did see his involuntary twitching interview with Jake Gyllenhaal. Like, the guy might need some medical help. It seems like he is not doing too well. So, and also, any interview I've seen with him recently, the man looks like completely just out of his mind on drugs. So, I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping that we're like reading into it, but it looks like he's not well. But I mean, none of that came through in the performance in the movie, but yeah, hope the guy's doing okay. I'd like to see him in more roles. I think that he would be great to like just plop into more like B-movie action, like set pieces. Like he would just fit really well into it. And he just looks like he's having a lot of fun. And that's the main thing, is that like, if you're doing like a B movie 80s villain role, like you gotta be committed to the gimmick. I think Billy Magnussen is really committed to the gimmick too. I thought that he was just like, he was just this annoying, kind of like snivelly, conniving, weak 80s villain archetype. and he plays it up. He plays it up and has a lot of fun with it. I think that he maybe could have taken it a little bit further, so it didn't feel as like generic. But when you have Billy Magnuson in a movie, he's got like this charm about him and this like kind of dopey vibe to him where you kind of don't take him seriously because he's just got that face where I don't know. It seems like he just doesn't know what the hell he's doing, and that's fantastic for me. Like he's great in Game Night. He's great in what was it? The James Bond movie that he was in. And here I think he performs once again, just like puts in really solid work. So overall, I'm very happy with this movie. I don't think it's like the best movie ever. I don't think it's like, you know, I don't think it's on the level of the original. The original is just like completely goated. It's Patrick Swayze's like it's a top 5 Patrick Swayze movie. But like I gotta say, like I really enjoyed this one from start to finish. The script itself is pretty average. I think it's nothing special. I think they lean on a lot of like tropes and crutches that and like some of the exposition gets a little bit hazy. Oh man, I that just reminds me of the tweet like, oh, 6 beers deep, stop rapping about Patrick Swayze. The guy's just like, oh, things are getting hazy. Like, sorry, I botched that. Look up the tweet. It's funny. It's funnier than the way I delivered it, but that was completely unplanned. But yes, I do think that the exposition does get a little hazy and muddy. It's just not. I don't think it fully commits in certain areas on the script, but I think Doug Liman does a great job to like bring to life like the energy and the spirit of the B movie appeal and make it like the forefront of the movie. So like it has this positive, carefree tone about it the whole time. Or most of the time, not when Dalton's murdering people, but for the most part the tone stays consistent. The action is really fantastic. The vibe is just overall like very fun, and the whole cast I think does a really good job. So I think I gave it a 7.8 out of 10. I think that's a fair rating. I don't think it's a great movie, but it's a solid good time in the movies. I kind of wish that they put it in theaters, because this, I feel like this is begging to be seen on the big screen. It's shot really well. Cinematography and the lighting is just like fantastic. I think there's a lot of dynamic. I said camera work in the action scenes, but I think there's a lot of dynamic work when it comes to the color tones. There's a lot of tan and blue, and like mixed with like this kind of I want to say like a sepia tone that mixes really well with like the bolder colors. So like the night scenes don't look as like crappy as most modern blockbusters do, because night scenes nowadays are like just getting to a point where they're like unwatchable. Like even anything that's filmed like on the volume now, like with night scenes, if it's not the Batman, like it looks bad. So just seeing that they were able to make this movie look good, even when the CGI is very obvious, it just makes for overall very enjoyable experience. So I had a great time with this one. My favorite line delivery of the week, though, before we get into some recommendations, I loved the line delivery that both Conor McGregor and Jake Gyllenhaal have in this movie, where they're on a boat, and I don't know, it's something where Conor McGregor says something about an octagon, but I love Jake Gyllenhaal's retort. It's just like, what? Who taught you shapes? And it's the way he says it is great. Like it's a perfect comedic beat to this movie that like I think needed to be there in the height of like the climax of the movie. So really enjoyed that. So check that out. It's Jake Gyllenhaal just responding to the octagon comment. I think it's funny. It's a little meta. It's, they have a lot of fun with it, and it's kind of winking at the camera in a just, very like just cutesy, folksy way. I really enjoyed that. But now let's get on to our recommendations. I have no skips this week actually because I haven't watched anything terrible recently, so that's good. That's a win that's a win for everybody. If we don't have skips, then that's good. That means we are watching more things and things are better than usual. So starting off with Fargo, season 5. I kind of wish that I reviewed this later last year and that it made it to my list week. Because if I had gotten around to it, this probably would have been in my top 10 TV shows of the year. Like this season is the best it's been since season 2. Season 2, I think, is the best season of Fargo in general. But it captures that similar vibe. The mix between the occult tone, the quirky, like what is it, the quirky Minnesota tone, like where but that the movie had, but then also this crime drama tinge that is like tied into politics, like inner city politics or like local politics, things like that, and corruption. I feel like Noah Hawley does a great job this season mixing all those elements together into something that feels like it's new ground for the show, but it still feels like unapologetically Fargo. So yeah, it was so good in the mid 2010s. Those first 2 seasons are amazing, and I'm not saying the third and fourth aren't good. The third and fourth are very solid detours from the formula, but I think this is why people liked Fargo in the first place. Juno Temple is badass. She's from Ted Lasso. Joe Keery from Stranger Things as well. He is I like how he's just kind of dialing up the bad boy energy, and like in a way that you really do not see Steve Harrington in him. You see a completely different character, and he's immersed in it. And speaking of immersion, John Hamm, probably his best performance on screen since Mad Men ended. He goes full villain mode. He's unpredictable. He's strange. He's oddly welcoming and warm, and you just kind of understand his plight, and you understand him a little bit, and then you don't. So I really enjoy it. It's very good writing all around. 10 out of 10 show for me this season. It's and also Lamorne Morris from New Girl, finally getting to see him in something again, and he's fantastic. Adds a lot of levity to the show, but he's also holding his own with Juno Temple and Jennifer Jason Leigh. It's cool seeing him in this context, because I always thought that he was a really, really good actor. And when Woke got canceled, I was wondering, like, where is he going to be able to show off that talent? And here, like in Fargo, he does a really magnificent job. So, yeah, that's one of my recs. I got another one, Wonka. Yeah, I mean, it's a blast. It's so much fun. It's such a good movie. It's just so heartwarming. I kind of want to watch it like every Christmas now. It's just Timothée Chalamet is genuinely such a star. Like I was telling my wife as we were watching it, I would like stop it. I'd just be like, this man is a star. Like I am captivated by literally everything that he's doing. Like the little quirks are fun, but also like the quiet moments are really touching, and he's just such a good actor. His singing was honestly like really good. I enjoyed. I don't like musicals. I anybody that knows me knows that I am not a fan of musicals, but I enjoyed every song in this movie. I thought like they did such a good job with the writing. to fit the songs into the structure of the plot. And Paul King is 3 for 3. Like, I I would I would gladly watch another one of these in a heartbeat. I understand why it was such a success because, again, people want quality at the box office, and this is that. Like the set decoration, the opulent costume design. Like, I'm surprised this movie did not get more like Oscar attention. I don't think it got any. I really don't. I don't think it got like any Oscar nominations at all, which is upsetting because I feel like a movie like this, if it came out like 10 years ago, this would be like the number one, like, front runner for the Oscars. And it just, I'm kind of like, I like that it didn't get any, a recognition kind of that way, where it's like it kind of stands on its own from those Oscars movies. But at the same time, I kind of wish that it did, because it's extremely well done. Really enjoyed that. And last but not least, got one more recommendation, and then I will send you guys on your way. X-Men 97 from Marvel Animation. The new, I think it's, I don't think it takes place in the MCU, but it is like Marvel Studios. I do plan on covering it on my Let's Talk About series on YouTube. It's fantastic. It's great. Animation styles, the blend of 3D and 2D is, it's gorgeous. It's really beautiful to look at. Every frame is popping with just so much color and vibrance. But like at the same time, it's harkening back to that old animation style in the 90s from the X-Men animated series. I never watched the animated series, but I tried, making sure I caught up on the plot and what's going on, because it's a direct sequel. It's a direct continuation. And from what I've read online and heard from other creators is that this actually is like taking that tone of the originals and like just continuing along that journey. And a lot of people are very happy with it. I'm very happy with it as well. The writing is really good. It's kind of weird that the head writer just got fired. That was strange. Bo DeMaio, he wiped all of his socials and he just got fired. But like, I mean, he does a really good job on this. But whatever he did, like, they must have fired him for a reason. So can't condone whatever he did. I heard it had something to do with OnlyFans. So, and creepy behavior, so that's kind of messed up. It does put a little bit of a sour taste in your mouth as you watch this, but I'm sure he's not like the only person that worked on this show, right? That everybody else that worked on it, that put in a lot of hard work and effort, like they did such a good job. The animation is just truly just eye-grabbing and captivating from the first second. The voice acting is fantastic. I think that the world building is great. They're able to like fuse together, elements of like, what made the X-Men movies great too is like commenting on like the societal pressure and like the analogs of race and, sexual orientation. Like that's literally what the X-Men were back in the 2000s when Bryan Singer did those first two movies. So I think that they're pulling from that well, and they're doing it doing a really good job with it. So highly recommend it. Definitely check it out. The one thing is, you don't have to know anything about the MCU or anything like that. Like, you don't have to know it to watch this show. Just gotta, honestly, you wouldn't even have to know the animated series, because they start kind of like fresh on a new plot line. And I think where they're going with it, the way that it ties into the comics, it's going to be really exciting, and people are really going to love this. It's going to be some of the best stuff that's come out of Marvel in quite some time, probably since Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So very excited about this one. But yeah, guys, that's all I have today. I got some new videos coming out. The new Kanye West video coming out next week. I'm doing a review on him, doing a review on Metro Boomin and Future's album. And then I got some other videos coming soon. Got the Star Wars Graveyard ending next week. We'll do a podcast for that as well. So you'll be hearing a lot from me. Even if you don't want to, you're getting a lot of me. I got a lot coming up, so I'm excited to share all of it with you. Everybody just have a great week. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.